On January 10, 2023, Allie Maynard tweeted, "It's actually crazy we figured out how to grow real diamonds that are cheaper and better quality than the real thing, and so many people are still like, no thanks, the suffering is what makes it special." This is Museum of Twitter, the show where we talk about the most important tweets in the history of Twitter.com. This doesn't happen often, but like 5 times while doing research for this episode, I thought I should probably do another tweet. People have very strong feelings about this topic, and I don't know that much about it to be an authority on it. But I have to do this tweet at some point, and I don't think I'm going to get like a professional diamond expert on, so let's go for it. I say that up top because I want to give the caveat that like if you have very strong feelings about this, if you know a lot about it, and you think that I'm an idiot for one thing I say, I apologize. But I wanted to cover it because I think that the general thrust of it is correct. That it's a little bit weird that there is a substance that in order to get it, people need to suffer in really grotesque ways, often children. And then when someone makes an alternative to it, that's to the naked eye basically the same thing, people say, no, I don't want the alternative. It's important that it's the real thing. And when asked to provide a reason why they want the real thing, there really is no answer besides like, ooh, it's icky that's grown in a lab. Which Allie Maynard snarkily turns into, the suffering is what makes it special. See, the thing I learned when I was doing research for this is that there are a lot of people who are against lab-grown diamonds because lab-grown diamonds are not completely ethical either. Specifically, they require metals like cobalt, which are also unethically mined. And so I will say I grant that rebuttal. But I think we need to be honest that most people who are against lab-grown diamonds are not against lab-grown diamonds because they're not ethical enough. They're against lab-grown diamonds because they've been convinced that only the real diamonds with slight imperfections are what's good. That if you're not willing to spend like half a year's salary on a diamond, you don't actually love the woman you're with. Now, a screenshot of this tweet, which has since been deleted, has been posted on a lot of different Reddits, like the Reddit dedicated to lab-grown diamonds. On there, Carissa Kenro says, "I love lab-grown stones. They're clearer, don't have inclusions, and don't have the whole slavery and child labor thing. And they make the more unusual stones a lot more accessible. If they're chemically the same and have the same properties, I don't understand why people get upset over the difference. I consider them more genuine than cultural pearls, and those are pretty much all you can find now." Now, I'm not going to co-sign all of that necessarily, because once again, I actually don't know the chemical properties, but like, that seems fairly reasonable to me. And on another subreddit, Nora69 said, "The industry will tell you what's the flaws that make them special. They're literally selling you an inferior product and marking them up through the roof and telling you they're better. Ain't nobody ever going to grab your hand and look at your diamond with a magnifying glass and proceed to be impressed by how up it is when zoomed in." Now look, I'm actually sympathetic to the idea that something being like natural and having like natural deformities or natural imperfections does make it like more valuable in like a rarity sense. Like yeah, a natural diamond, which was the result of millions of years of carbon being compressed and having its own unique imperfections that no other stone on the earth has, that should be like more valuable in terms of dollars than a lab-grown diamond. But most of us never buy diamonds in that context. We buy diamonds in the context of engagement rings. And so even if we get a real diamond, it's not like we're going to get one that is like the craziest, most unique diamond of all time. And so it's just really hard for me to imagine why someone who's like middle class would need a real diamond as opposed to an artificial one. I have someone in my life who recently purchased an artificial diamond for their loved one, and they both like it a lot. It looks basically the same. I've seen it. It's a beautiful looking stone. And as they've told me, it's like 1/10 the price of what it would be if it was a real diamond. And I say real diamond, and lots of people in the replies and the quote tweets who were against Allie's argument thought this was a gotcha, because she says, better quality than the real thing. And they said, oh, so you're saying it's the same, but 2 seconds later you say the real thing, referring to natural diamonds. And like, yeah, that gotcha is accurate. She does make that mistake. But I don't know, doesn't that in itself sort of highlight the ridiculousness of this whole exercise? Like, I'm not trying to say I don't understand at all the tradition of buying an expensive engagement ring. Like, I get it. You want to buy something expensive and shiny and nice to prove that you are devoted to the person you want to spend the rest of your life with. But because the diamond doesn't have any actual intrinsic value, like, you can't do anything with a diamond, isn't it a situation where, like, quite literally it's the thought that counts? And I actually completely relate to B, who said, bro, instant ick for an ex when she said she didn't like the idea of lab-grown. The f*** you mean? The history makes it mean more? The history of torture? Get the f*** out of here. Because personally, I've never been in a relationship long enough to really consider buying someone an engagement ring. But I also think I would get the ick from someone if they thought it was really important to not have a lab-grown diamond. And the most recent time that a screenshot of Allie's post was shared widely, what I'm mostly drafting off of was when Branta used it to quote Megan Nivolt's tweet of, "My issue with lab-grown diamonds is they are a direct reflection of women lowering their standards." Now, another route you can take in the quotes of this Branta post I'm talking about was what Ada McVean did. Ada McVean said, "Moissanite was discovered in meteorites and has a higher refractive index, aka is more brilliant than diamond, nearly as hard, costs like 1/3 of the price, and doesn't come with a bloody history. I'm boggled when people choose diamonds in the 21st century." Now, I do get the tradition of diamonds. I'm not going to judge anyone who wants a diamond, even if they go with a lab-grown one, but like, I also think that this is fair. Whenever I see someone who gets a stone that's not a diamond as an engagement ring, that's honestly always really interesting, and half the time it looks more beautiful. Now, tons and tons of the replies and quotes bring up the fact that the diamond market is artificially inflated. Tricky Mississippi says, "The suffering quite literally is what makes it special. Diamonds are valued high, not because they're particularly special by themselves, but because the supply is heavily regulated to create an illusion of scarcity. Synthetic diamonds just aren't aren't as much of a status symbol. And this is correct, but I did roll my eyes at the volume of people who said this, because it feels like De Beers artificially inflates the diamond market is like baby's first conspiracy theory on the internet. Like, I feel like I saw people saying that as like crazy knowledge on Reddit like 15 years ago. But whatever, it's still true now. And I think that in the replies, Branta actually makes a great rebuttal to Axel Gear's response to him. Axel says, to an extent, I understand the difference feelings. Let's say someone gave you a birthday present, and it was personally made by a friend, and you knew it probably took a number of hours to create. Would you feel differently if another friend just bought it from the store? And Branta has the obvious rebuttal to that, which is, I mean, yes, but I would imagine the friend actually enjoys making gifts and isn't suffering making them. Because yeah, I do agree that human effort makes something more special. It's why I am so vehemently against AI art. The humanity is what makes any art special. But I don't consider suffering humanity. Like, the way I would make the totem pole is crafted by humans through human ingenuity, lab grown, and then made through suffering. And before someone says, well, art is suffering, people say, shut up, you know what I mean. Okay, the episode's over, and honestly, I feel as good about having chosen this tweet as I did when I first started this episode, which is to say, not that good at all. Follow me for a new tweet every day, and if you'd like the show, I really would love if you could check out my Patreon, patreon.com/museum of Twitter, where you get a weekly bonus episode called the Museum of Non-Twitter, and you get to vote when I cover it on Subscriber Sundays.